going on, everybody? Dan the Ultra Dad here, man. It's been a little while since I've posted a video like this. I am down here in Florida. Oh, I love Florida. If you've been following my channel, you know that I come down here every once in a while. It's a nice break, a nice reprieve from Ohio weather, although it is pretty nice up there right now being fall. So just excited to be down here and down in Port St. Joe, Florida on the Panhandle. So gonna have a good time today, just a little run. I woke up today and I really wanted to go running, which I haven't felt that for quite a while. And so pretty excited about that. All right, let's get going. Well, I'm out here and the wind isn't too bad. Let me ask you, have you ever had a lull or a down turn and you're running? I wouldn't say depression, because life is too good for me right now to be depressed, but you ever had those feelings where, you know, it's tough to get up and run? Man, I've been kind of going through that over the past few weeks since my race at the Wasatch 100, but nothing like a place like this to rejuvenate you and help you turn the doorknob, help you get through those moments. So this is absolutely beautiful out here. I hope you can find your salve or your medicine for that. Have a good run today. We'll talk to you later and break down more of the Wasatch 100, let you know how it went. This is awesome. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Dan the Ultra Dad here. Hope you're enjoying this fall weather. Before I get started with my little commentary here today, definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the like, thumbs up as well if you want to see more of my content. We're having a great time down here in Florida, but usually I'm running, I'm training. So welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I've done kind of one of these videos where I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking and how things are going. So let's talk. I'm also going to put some chapters at the bottom, so if you want to skip towards maybe my Wasatch 100 race recap, go ahead and do that. First though, let's talk about my how I've been doing after the race. So after the race, if you watch my video, check it out if you haven't, upper right hand corner. But I had COVID, unfortunately, and so after the race, it was all about recovering from that. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. It was bad when I was up on the mountain, but once I came down from altitude and I got back home, again, I didn't really know what I had until I got home, but when I did get home, I tested, and then I realized I had tested positive. So this time though, it was more like a really bad cold with a lot of upper respiratory stuff. So, you know, after 3 or 4 days, I felt a lot better. And so thankfully that was the case. But, you know, it took a good week and a half, 2 weeks to feel 100%. But now we're, oh gosh, what are we? Probably a month removed from the race, and I'm doing just fine. No problem at all. So, all right, so let's talk a little bit about my current training. So you saw me running here. I'm down here in Florida right now for a family vacation. And that's been really fun. But up until now, I really haven't been doing much running for the past 3-4 weeks. A few runs here and there. I definitely have been helping to coach my daughter's soccer team, so I'm getting some physical activity, no doubt, but it's been a challenge as far as my running and my training. Basically, my season's over, so I don't have big races ahead right now for the rest of the year. I might throw in a couple local races, but because of that, my training has definitely suffered a bit. But I think it's good. You know, there's different seasons for different ways to train, and right now it's just kind of recovery season for me. So that's how things are going right now. But let's get back into the Wasatch 100. Let's talk about that. So, man, that race was awesome. I had a great time, just an amazing time with my brother Will. Shout out to him once again. Thank you for Will for coming all the way out there to watch my race and help me film. But we had an amazing time, man. That first day, if you saw the video before my race video, we found this amazing bluff and cliff face, and we were driving our rental car, which was a Jeep Wrangler, man, and we were out in the middle of nowhere, and that was so much fun just to be out in the wilderness, just exploring. And it was a great way to get ready for the race and to rest a little bit, because most of the time I was sitting in the car, and it was nice just to ride along and just kind of, just chill basically. But the next day was the beginning of the Wasatch 100. Woke up super early, got to bed pretty much, when I would want to get to bed, right around 9 or 10 p.m. Maybe it was pushing 10:30 if I remember right. But got most of my gear together. We were staying at a friend's house, so in their basement. So really gracious of them to have us there. Made it much easier as far as knowing where everything was and making sure we had everything we needed. So we took off from, we left early, probably, I think we left at 3:30. We had about a half hour, 45-minute drive to the start line in Kaysville, Utah. And that's where it started, man. And you saw, it was amazing how many people were there. And I was definitely feeling these symptoms I was having. So it was affecting kind of my overall feeling, and status, but it was so exciting that a lot of that kind of went by the wayside. And the day before, I was very concerned. Like, I was starting to feel not so great and not so hot, and I was concerned that might have an impact on how I felt the day of the race. But I tell you what, at the beginning of the race, at that start line, I felt pretty much fine. Like, I think it was the adrenaline and just how exciting it was. There were tons of runners. I think it was 300 plus runners at that starting line, with all their crews and everything. And man, it was so cool to do that. So we got started and then kind of started weaving our way up to Bear Canyon, which is the big climb at the beginning of the race. I think the first 9 miles you go about 4,000 feet. So at some point, some of it was kind of mid-grade climbing, but there was quite a bit of super high grade, really steep sections where everyone was, there was a conga line of runners just waiting for their turn to continue to inch their way up the mountain. So that beginning climb really did take a lot out of me, but everyone. And I think that's the reason they put it there at the beginning of the race, just to really test you and test your climbing. But I'll be honest, by the time I got to the top, and the views were amazing, on the way up. But once we get to the top, man, the views are spectacular. I'm sure you saw if you watched my video, and man, it was just really, really scenic and just beautiful up there. A little hazy, and at the time I thought it was just kind of, you know, Salt Lake can have some pollution, and I thought it was just maybe the morning haze, but in reality there was a lot of smoke, and I didn't know it because I couldn't really smell it because of COVID. I think I lost my sense of smell pretty quickly, and I was just so congested. But at the time, you know, I didn't notice the smoke. But apparently there was a ton of smoke, and actually that led to a bunch of people DNFing later in the race. That wasn't my reason, but it definitely, there was a lot of smoke. So in my video, you can see throughout the day, you can see some haze, and I guess that was just smoke. So anyway, we get to the top of Bear Canyon, and it was just beautiful up there. You know, you saw just some epic running down this mountain, and that was really, really cool. I really don't think I've ever done anything like that. I've done some mountain races, but never with those kind of views. It was just beautiful up there. So definitely is nice because you're running a 100-mile race, but you're so distracted by the views, and I think that's a good thing. You don't realize how much work you're putting in just because of how fun it is to be up there and running down those mountains and up those mountains. So you know, I will also say, after you get to the top of that first huge climb, there's a pretty significant, pretty serious downhill run that just goes on for miles, and I could definitely start feeling at mile 10, 15, it was starting to work on my quads quite a bit, that downhill pounding. So I forced myself to walk some. I definitely was approaching this race, you know, that I was going to take it very slow and see how far I could go, because again, I wasn't feeling the best, and I knew if I pushed it too hard, it wasn't going to turn out well. It didn't necessarily turn out well anyway, but I think it was a good good strategy, I guess I'd say, for approaching the race. And I took it to heart as we were moving in the beginning of the race. I forced myself to walk down some hills and just take breaks and just go at a very measured but steady pace. And so that's how it went for the first 20 miles, first 25 miles. And then at mile 30, at the 50K mark, that is where I met my brother for the first time. So that's where the first big mountain was, the first aid station where your crew could have access to the course. And it was really nice to see him. And actually at that point at mile 31, I felt pretty good. You can probably tell in the video, I felt fine. I was definitely tired from all the climbing, the ascents and the descents, and the descents. But in general, I felt pretty good. I was tired again, but I wasn't even really close to thinking about DNFing at that point. So then the next section was kind of the end of my race. It was about 9 mile. It was a 9-mile section because it was at mile 31 that I saw my brother Will at Big Mountain, and then it was about 9 miles to the next major aid station. And that it has a reputation, that section there, for causing a lot of people to drop out. Usually though, it's because of the heat, because it's so exposed, and people end up getting dehydrated during that 9-mile stretch. But for myself, it wasn't dehydration. I had plenty of water. My brother set me up well with plenty of supplies. But for me, that was when the COVID, I guess, the symptoms really started to be magnified by the altitude. So at that point in the race, I think you're about 8,000 to 9,000 feet. And so that, in combination with the fact that I've already run 31 miles, started to really have an impact on how I was feeling. And as you could see towards the end of my video, that's where I really started to struggle, for a couple different reasons. Number one, there were some really challenging downhill sections there with just a bunch of basically softball-sized rocks that would roll underneath you. So it was really hard physically to go down this hill, but at the same time I was getting hit with these symptoms from my illness as well as the altitude, which I really didn't do much acclimatization. I just didn't have that much time. I had a couple days in Salt Lake, which is still only about 4,000 or 5,000 feet right there. So all of this hit me at the same time, and by the time I got to mile 40, I realized how badly I was feeling. And it's at that point that I made a couple calls. I talked to my brother, and we decided to pull the plug. And I called my wife as well, and decided that probably made sense to go ahead and stop. And looking back, I'm glad I did, because the next section I think was about 7 miles, but it would have been in the dark for me. I would have been by myself because Will couldn't pace me yet, and I think that probably would have been just too much, and probably too much of a risk for my health. So anyway, so that's my Wasatch 100 story. That's what happened with the race. It was a crazy, amazing experience. I definitely don't regret it at all. I had a great time. But now I have to start thinking about what I'm going to do next year, what the plan is as far as training, as far as races for next year. I'm still kind of in that lull where I'm still considering things and thinking about my plans. But, I'll probably be in this phase for the next month or two as I think about my plans. But why don't you hit me up in the comments below, let me know what your plans are for your race season in 2023. Do you have any big goals? Do you have any big races? Are you thinking about like the Wasatch 100 or maybe the Fat Dog 120? Maybe even the Cruel Jewel 100 down in Georgia. These are just races I've done in the past, and they were awesome races. So I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're enjoying yourself. I'm going to go back to the beach and chill out today and enjoy it, but we'll catch you in the next one.